This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/Red5.
Welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, broadcasting from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Empire and on the fringes with the New Republic. Join your hosts Garrett K. Jones, Brian Karasik, and John Mark Tolley as they discuss the various facets of the saga's lore and characters, review the films, and discuss every tidbit of news coming out of Lucasfilm. Remember, this isn't just your Star Wars. This isn't just my Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. This is the way.
Yes, indeed. Welcome once again to another fun-filled episode of War of the Stars. I am your humble host, John Mark Tolley, joined as always by my other equally as humble host,
Garrett. I'm not that humble.
Oh.
I will humble brag all the way to...
Yes. Garrett K. Jones. And Garrett, we are joined by a special guest.
Yes.
A friend of mine, someone I've known for 14 years now. I think so. Can you hear me?
Cannot hear.
Oh, we're having technical difficulties.
We're in the world of technology, people.
Yay, technology. This is Jessica. She is... Can you hear me now?
I'm not sure why would I. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you guys.
Can you hear me? Testing. 1, 2.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Do some troubleshooting, maybe.
Okay.
I didn't hear you guys at all, but I am back.
Woohoo!
Can you hear us now?
Yes, loud and clear. Hello.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jessica. She is my wife's best friend's daughter.
I'm so glad
a huge Star Wars fan, it turns out. What?
Like, there's a little bit of a lag there where you start to say your wife's best friend's daughter, and it just cut off at like wife, and I'm like, wait, what? This is gonna get awkward really fast.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. A huge Star Wars fan, and so invited her on to talk some Star Wars, and we are talking some very hot, one might say caliente takes this week.
I just want to preface this with a warning and a disclaimer. This is not the kind of hot take you think it is. They're just really interesting opinions about the saga and the franchise, and let's just say that there are some that I agree with,
and I think
I don't.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think we need to kind of clarify, like, when we think of a hot take, what do we think of? Because I think there are some that are someone might say something, you're just like, of course, someone's going to say that. I think it's something that makes you think. That when you hear it, whether you agree with it or not, you go, huh.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the person giving the take has to be able to back it up. They have to give reasons for it, not just, hey,
Not just voicing their opinion.
I don't like Last Jedi. Okay, why?
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I want to start out with one of my hot takes,
Okay.
since we're getting into it. I've just prefaced this by saying that this character is one of my favorites, Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is a terrible Jedi.
Oh.
And fails at everything he does.
I would agree with you.
I mean,
Luke
from beginning
to end, Luke Skywalker. Well, yes, of course. Well, let's see. So when we first see him, he loses a droid right off the bat.
Well, hey, that
almost
gets
gets killed.
Jedi. That's just being irresponsible.
True. Okay. Let's fast forward to Empire Strikes Back. At this point, he's been somewhat training a little bit. You can tell he's had some training. He immediately, the first thing we see him, he gets attacked by a monster. nearly killed. Then he goes to Dagobah, and he fails every single test that Yoda puts in front of him. Every single one he fails. He gets his best friend captured.
Yeah.
And even in Jedi, he continues to fail. It's not until the very end that he finally does something right.
Well, hold on.
And that helps redeem
To be
his...
fair,
Okay.
in defense of Luke, when we see him on Dagobah, the reason why this is an issue, why he fails so much, is because he was not raised in the temple. He was not raised among Jedi.
Right.
Yoda even says he is too old to begin the training. The reason for this is because, and you see this in cults, you see this in other religious organizations, there's a reason why children are kind of the target audience, because you can mold them, you can shape them. Their little brains have not solidified into the concrete thinking of adulthood. They're still very, very susceptible. I mean, I've got an almost 10-year-old, and he still adamantly believes that Godzilla is a real flesh and blood breathing creature. Now, his mom and I will ask him, "Hey, is Godzilla a real thing?" And he'll be like, "No." Is it fiction? Yes. He still adamantly believes that Godzilla is going to show up at Christmas every year and bring presents for all the nuclear boys and girls.
That's adorable.
It is, but it's also very dangerous.
Yeah. I used to feel that way about Jurassic Park. Like T-Rex outside my window, fish tank shaking.
Yeah.
So,
right.
For the most part, though, I do think he is lousy at being a Jedi. He Last Jedi and Force Awakens kind of proves that for us.
Yeah.
All right.
So shall we start with some of the ones we got on here? Why don't you start us out, Garrett? What's one that you see that you want to kind of go over?
You're asking the wrong guy here. Hold on, let me pop it up on screen. That way we can all see it without having to worry about any glitches.
Sounds good.
You guys all see that?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just gonna jump right into the spicy.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi is a masterpiece. This is coming from someone named Nick Hogan. Nick, I hope you're watching. If you are, I apologize for anything that comes out of my mouth in the next 5 minutes. After the next 5 minutes, I do not apologize. So he says that this is the nuclear take. TLJ is the most divisive film in the franchise. He is right about that. But it is not a masterpiece unless it's a masterpiece in garbage.
Ooh.
Don't get me wrong. There are some great cinematography moments, like when we have that moment of silence after the dreadnought is hit by the Holdo maneuver. However, the Holdo maneuver and everything that Holdo does as a character, all the decisions that she makes are idiotic. They have so much technology at their hands that the only way they could stop the dreadnought is to steer a ship into it at light speed. That's a terrible idea. And then Luke's aforementioned failure as a teacher for Rey is just frustrating.
Yeah.
And story-wise, we get no answers. It just, all it does is undermine everything that was established. If you look at each trilogy as a 3-act structure for a singular story arc, the first entry, whether it's Phantom Menace, A New Hope, or Force Awakens, is the first act of the 3 acts. Everything that was established in Act 1, in Force Awakens, is completely undermined and undone by everything that happens in Last Jedi. And because they had no roadmap for the story, because they had nothing there, it's not the masterpiece that everybody thinks it is. It is very divisive. It is subversive, but not in the good way that people think it is.
No, why do you think that people who like it would feel that it is a masterpiece? I mean, what do you think? What is it about that movie that? Because I think most people, even those who like Last Jedi, would look at Rise of Skywalker and universally, I think that's one that most people don't really care for, but there's still a lot of Last Jedi defenders. What do you think it is about that movie that makes people that do like it and do love it really, really do love that really, really do love it?
Well, I think you have a lot of people who are big fans of Ryan Johnson. And
Okay.
don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed the Knives Out movies as they've been released, mostly on Netflix. And I enjoyed Looper. It was a very fun time travel caper story.
Hmm.
The problem is that I think with the success of like I don't know of many other projects that Ryan Johnson has worked on beyond Knives Out and Looper. But I feel like it was problematic that they picked someone who was not a fan of the franchise to direct
Yeah.
the film in the franchise.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, storytelling, like I like the way he does his storytelling with the Knives Out series. Like if you pay attention, yeah, you'll figure out who the culprit is in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's it's not that deep of a mystery.
Yeah.
What's fun is the execution of it and how the characters go about. And he makes
Yeah.
some interesting characters that you like, you hate, and everywhere in between.
Mhm. Well,
The
I do have to push back because I don't necessarily think that not being a fan of a something like that is necessarily needed, because you look at Wrath of Khan, and the director of that was not a fan of Star Trek and really didn't know much about Star Trek. I think that knowing, getting to know the material helps. And I think one of the things that could have helped Ryan is if there had been a roadmap. Like if they had come to him and said, here's where we want to take the story, move your story so that it goes into this area. Like if there would have been like a George Lucas who would overseen and kind of written a grand plan for it,
Yeah.
and then and told Ryan Johnson, hey, work within this framework. You can do whatever you want, but work within this framework.
And see, that's kind of the problem that they're running into is that, and I get what you're saying with regards to not necessarily having someone who's a fan, because then they're going to want to steer it towards whatever their own predilections are. We see that with Dave Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that the difference is, who's the director of Wrath of Khan? Was it Nicholas Meyer?
I think it was Meyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Nicholas Meyer, while he may not have been a fan of Star Trek, he was willing to do the homework necessary to make the film tie in with the rest of the series. Because, I mean, Khan is really the first antagonist from the original series who gets brought into the big screen treatment. And you see something that happened and the consequences of something that Kirk did to him, back in the 60s, get brought forward 20 years later in one of the greatest sci-fi cinematic experiences ever. And I think you're right. Had someone given a roadmap to Ryan Johnson, that would have been great. Except, would Ryan Johnson have actually followed that? Because going into the sequel trilogy, Disney received a heavily worded memo from George Lucas saying, "Hey, this is what I've outlined moving forward prior to the sale of Lucasfilm to Disney. Here's my recommendation with what to do with Star Wars moving forward." And Disney basically just said, "Nope," and just did their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jessica,
So
what's your stance on this?
Well, I mean, I've only seen that one time, but yeah, I think I can agree that, I mean, as a creator, you can't really, you have to be able to use a new style that's fitting for the storyline that you're trying to tell. Like you said, comparing it to the Knives Out movies. I could see I could see some running themes that were similar. And it was just harder to, well, I guess it was just harder to believe that it wasn't continuation of the original. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
But
that's
I
pretty good.
mean, I wouldn't say, yeah, I wouldn't say masterpiece. I mean, I think anything related to, whether it's honestly, whether it's canon, whether it's fan fiction, like I personally, I'm all for it. But yeah, a masterpiece is a very strong word to use for any
Well, yeah.
singular. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So we're gonna, pick. You're gonna go through. We won't go through all of these. We're just gonna go through some of the ones that we kind of feel we.
Jessica, in
Yeah.
fact,
So
Jessica, since you're a guest, I'll let you pick the next one. We've got
Oh,
spicy,
okay.
mid, and low level.
whichever one.
You pick the
All
level,
right.
and you pick the hot take.
Yeah, I like the tiers here. I really like the top tier spicy.
Okay.
I think
Mm.
I have to go with Tier and Day's hot take. Ezra Bridger is a stronger
Oh, okay.
Jedi than Luke Skywalker.
Then
Post Perdia, it's
Skywalker.
not even a question. Luke fans would
Mm.
absolutely riot.
Hmm.
Well, I'm a
That's,
Luke fan, and I would agree. I
I mean,
think
as
that.
Luke being your favorite character, yeah, I'm sure. Are you
I mean, it's
rioting?
hard because I mean the way they've written Luke. Now, this depends on if you're talking canon Luke or if you're talking Legends Luke. Because if you're talking Legends Luke, he's just god tier. Like
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker in Legends can do no
Yeah.
wrong.
Legends Luke
Um,
Skywalker is he's like Fire God Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he. But canon Luke. I mean, if you look at it, he's trained longer. He was actually trained. Like, I mean, how we don't really know how much actual training Luke had with Yoda,
Yeah.
whereas with Ezra, we see all the training he had with Kanan, and several years of training. So yeah, I think I would tend to agree that he probably would be. Now you also have the fact that Luke Skywalker is basically the chosen one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Garrett?
It's kind of a hard thing. Like, I grew up with Luke Skywalker being the only Jedi hero character I really knew for years out of my life.
Mhm.
And while I wanted to emulate him as a kid, as an adult, not so much. And I think part of that has to do with just maturity. But like Ezra I think he gets a little bit more of a pass just because we get to spend a little bit more time with him in canon than we do with Luke. With Luke, we get 3 core movies, and where he is one of the central characters, and then we have 2 appearances in the sequel trilogy, and he's not really much of a Jedi by that point. The only other appearance that we have of him where he is in like full scope Jedi mode is at the tail end of Mandalorian season 2 in that one episode of Book of Boba Fett where he gives Grogu the choice of leaving his Jedi training or sticking around for it. And so we don't have nearly as much time as we do with Ezra Bridger. And so we get to see a lot more of his character development. We get to see a lot more of his training. We get to see the failures, but we also get to see him learn from those failures and turn them into successes.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see growth. We don't get that from Luke. Luke grows through the scope of the original trilogy for sure, but then what happens in between that?
Right.
Because he goes from being this really awesome, warrior capable of taking down an entire hallway full of droid dark troopers, and then what? He has a bad dream about his nephew and decides to kill him.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, stop dropping acid. Just be a good teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice if we could get a little bit more of what led up to that, like what led up to him, that moment in Last Jedi where he has the premonition of the darkness within Ben, so we can kind of understand that more. Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Jessica? I mean, do you think that Ezra's more powerful than Luke?
Well, I think it's hard to say this, but I think I have to disagree just because I feel like Luke, I mean, he found it pretty easy to like forgive his father, but from like a close relationship standpoint, I don't know that he really, I mean, maybe you guys disagree, and maybe you guys have like seen, those movies and read Legends and the novels probably a lot more than me, but um to me it seemed like Luke had a harder time getting close with people, and I think that might have been kind of an asset to his Jedi strength.
Mm.
To me, it seems like Ezra Bridger just has a lot of personal relationships that might get in the way of his focus, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Mm. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. Ezra definitely has a lot more connections and um
And you have to be able to, stay focused as a Jedi and
yeah.
let go of like your personal wants and needs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just
That
not sure if he's as capable of doing that as Luke, like
mm.
pre knowing that Vader was his dad, Luke.
Well, and I think I think when we're talking powerful, I think we're kind of getting off the task there, because like if we look at specific acts, Luke. I mean, the most powerful thing Luke did is he resisted being tempted to the dark side. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like being the parent of a hardcore alcoholic and saying, nope, I'm going to resist that predilection for the bottle.
Yeah.
But the like, if you look at just simple acts of using the Force, we don't get much of Luke using the Force other than a few slight Force abilities, like Jedi mind tricks and some levitation, and then coming back as a Force ghost.
Yeah.
Or the projection that he does. Actually, which the projection going that far across the galaxy is pretty impressive. It's a huge feat of power. But
Mhm.
look at what Ezra accomplished. He communicated with Force-sensitive space whales and convinced them to take Thrawn's ship into a completely different galaxy through light speed
Yeah.
with him on board.
Incredible.
So, like, and that's a completely different skill set, and that's something that he developed organically because he was fascinated in these Force-sensitive creatures.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say that Ezra is stronger than Luke. I think you put the nail on the head. It's comparable, but it's just a different set of skills. It's a different set of Force skills that Ezra, is connected to the Force through, whereas Ezra is connected through like definitely. I mean, I think they're both connected to the living Force, but Ezra seems to have more of a connection to living beings, to animals, to the living beings like that than maybe Luke does. I think that's where the difference is. So I think it's not necessarily that one is stronger than the other. It's just a different skill set. that they have, a different set of abilities. So let me pull this up. Legends was never canon and should. This is from John Mateus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, John. Legends was never canon and should never be considered such. Most of it reads like bad fan fiction. I'll agree with the first part. I don't think Legends was ever considered to be canon. I mean, Lucas himself never considered it canon. So I never got this idea that, Legends was canon. No, Legends was never canon.
Well,
Lucas himself said the only thing he considered canon was the movies and Clone Wars and everything that came from Clone Wars.
Well, there was a point though where the in order to get the books published, they had to fit within the scope of what Lucas considered canon. It had to be signed off on by him.
Yeah. But Lucas never considered the books canon.
Well, there you have it.
I've said this. I mean, one of the issue now. I love Legends. I've loved most of Legends books. The Timothy Zahn novels are what really got me into Star Wars. I said that before, but I mean, after a while, they tend to contradict themselves. They tend to, especially once the prequels came out, because you got to remember that the Zahn novels, which have Thrawn, which were you're introduced to Thrawn, came out in 1991, years before the sequels, the prequel trilogy came out.
Yeah.
And so they were talking about the Clone Wars, and then when when Attack of the Clones come out and the Clone Wars TV show, it completely contradicts what was written in those books. So then they have to retcon in the later books that came after, like, well, we really meant this when we were talking about the clones, but those were different clones. And so you had a lot of retconning having to be done, a lot of rewriting. And as problematic as we've said some of the sequels are, one of the things that they have done with Disney, with the Disney buyout and with the books, is to have a really set where I don't know how to describe it. Everything seems to be more like there's more of a continuity with the books, because now they know, like, they have a set plan and they kind of know where they're going to go. So the books seem to be more consistent in what's being done. So yeah.
What would be your recommendation for, like, which book do you think was your personal favorite?
The Force Unleashed. It was the novelization of the video game from 2007, 2008, and it fills in a lot of the gaps from the video game cutscenes a lot better. Like, there's a scene in the book where Starkiller goes to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and it wasn't until after the book was published that LucasArts put out a DLC pack for the game that sends you to the Jedi Temple. But the DLC is kind of separate and independent from the main story arc. So, like, I would have to get to a certain point, stop the main campaign of the game, jump into that DLC pack, finish that, and then go back in for the story to full sense. I mean, you can play the game without that sequence, and it still makes sense. But for me, it feels like that extra chapter that I was missing.
For me, I would say if you're gonna do the new ones, the book that I read recently that just blew me away was Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. Amazing book. It follows two characters, one who who are best friends and become lovers, the whole thing. But one is an Imperial and one is becomes a rebel, and you follow them from, like, the beginning, basically near the beginning of the start of the Empire, all the way through to the what was the planet that Rey was from?
Jakku.
Battle of Jakku at the end of the war. So you followed them all the way through, and you get to see things like the destruction of Alderaan from the Imperial viewpoint, from the viewpoint of people on the Death Star, watching it as it happens. You get, you see all of these things, but it's through the viewpoint of the people actually there, not from like the viewpoint of like Darth Vader or the Emperor. You see it through the viewpoint of just, soldiers and people there. So it's amazing story. But yeah, I definitely would do that. Recommend that. Yeah. All right. What else do we got?
Let's take a look here. I want to go with this one by a guy named Garrett Robertson. Hopefully he's honoring the Garrett name.
Yeah.
Rogue One is a top 3 Star Wars movie, and the worst project by far is Book of Boba Fett. The first half is beloved. The second half is a grenade. I would agree with him on this.
Yeah. Rogue One is one of my favorite.
If you are watching and or listening, I completely and wholeheartedly, as a fellow Garrett, say you are on the money, sir.
Yes, I would agree. Rogue One is, I've said this before, Rogue One is not only one of the best Star Wars movies made, one of the best war movies ever made.
In fact, check out our tiered list on the films, and Rogue One is at the very tippy top.
Yes, I believe Rogue One was the only one that got an S tier.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look. And
I think that is my dad's favorite movie.
Rogue
maybe
One?
Of all time. He talks about it like every time we're on the phone.
Yeah. My daughter, she liked it, but she was so disappointed when everyone died.
Yeah.
She was like, why do they all have to die? I'm like, well,
it's life, kid.
It's called storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because then you have to make, if they don't die, then you have to figure out, well, where were they during all these other battles?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's the problem when you're having to write some kind of prequel sequence, is you have to make sure, if you look at the tail end of Revenge of the Sith, it feels like there's 5 different endings to the film.
Yeah.
And all because it feels like they're being squeezed into their starting positions for A New Hope.
Yeah.
And then you've got Rogue One that comes in that takes place right before the events of A New Hope. And there's no way you can keep those characters alive because
yeah. I mean, that is a problem with a prequel, is how it's going to end. Okay, these I think the only way you can do a prequel within Star Wars and not be where what's going to happen at the end is if you go all the way back to High Republic, where you have characters, brand new characters that you've no connection to any of the other characters.
Yeah, because otherwise, and see, that's the problem, is that when you have a story like that, you're going to have those people who are looking for those connections specifically. Think about it's a great way to play. Game of Thrones with House of the Dragon. It's a great series from what I've heard. I have not actually watched it. I kind of got turned off that franchise because of how Game of Thrones ended. But
agreed.
But you've got a bunch of characters, and you've got all these Targaryens, and what I keep seeing on social media is here's how this person's related to this person and this person and this person, and it's but let's just let the story simmer in its own merits and its own broth without having to make those connections to something that's not going to take place for 200 years.
So as far as the second part of it, the worst project by far is Boba Fett. I would disagree with that just because the Acolyte exists.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah, we just covered live action series.
Yeah, we did.
Did we? Wait, did we cover the live? No, we covered animated series.
Animated, yeah.
But we were talking about we were talking about the villains from
Yeah.
Boba Fett.
Villain. So,
I'm not-
and the thing about the Acolyte that is so disappointing is you had a clean slate with the Acolyte.
Yeah.
You had a completely clean slate, like no connection to any other story, and it's just.
And then you've got this showrunner who fundamentally doesn't understand anything about the franchise. And see, this was my beef with Rian Johnson is it wasn't just that he wasn't a fan. Like, I mean, like I said, Nicholas Meyer wasn't a fan of Star Trek, but he could appreciate it. He learned enough about it that he could do something that shows the appreciation for what came before.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people who do not care about what came before and they're just trying to subvert and deconstruct it, that's when you run into the problems because they have no respect for what has already been established in the canon, that they're just going to do their own thing. I mean, this is why we have a character like Osha, who, despite not really having any rage issues, goes into this mode of bleeding a kyber crystal because she was grumpy. Meanwhile, I mean, Anakin had to go and steal somebody else's lightsaber to get a fresh crystal in what's considered canon now, and he had to pour his hatred and rage and self-loathing into that just to bleed it and turn it into his own crystal.
Yeah.
In fact, the book Master of Evil, one of the ones I just finished reading in the last month or so, deals with that. In fact, one of the opening chapters is him doing that very act. And it's like, there's a whole process that went into it. It's not just as easy as, oh, I'm gripping the lightsaber and I'm really pissed off and it's going to turn red on me. Like the kyber crystal resisted Vader. It fought back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there is some level of sentience because it's connected to the Force. It's attuned to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, therein lies the problem.
So do we want to go to the opposite? Book of Boba Fett is amazing. I don't get the hate.
Are you drunk on cheese?
This is one thing I've. What's that?
Are you drunk on cheese?
This is from Chris Kissel. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I mean, this is the thing I've said before about the idea that I don't necessarily agree with the concept of something being when they say that, oh, this movie is objectively bad because taste is subjective. You're gonna find people who, like I've said this before. You can go out and find 50 people who hate, let's say, Book of Boba Fett and think it is the worst thing that's ever made and should be. Every copy of it should be burned in the fiery pits of hell. And you're going to find 50 people who think it is the greatest show that has ever been made in the history of television. That's just the way it is. And who's right? Who's wrong? And you're going to find people who be able to back those up with well thought out claims about anything, any movie, about Last Jedi, about Rise of Skywalker. You're going to find people who love it, people who hate it, and people who are able to tell you in very, very distinct ways about why they like it, why they hate it, and who's right and who's wrong with that.
There is, from a storytelling perspective, from a writing perspective, there is a way about being objective about this. And this is kind of how I took it. For one, the show is called The Book of Boba Fett, and while for the most part the cinematography looks fine, I mean, you can obviously tell it's done on the volume. Most of the sets are partially there. The rest of it's digitally added. But you've got a character like Boba Fett who is supposedly known for being this really badass mercenary type character. He's a bounty hunter, and we see him do absolutely none of that. Like, he doesn't hunt bounties. He barely gets into fights. Most of the time, he's spending whatever screen time he's on in a Bacta tank, healing and recovering and resting. Most of the action is done by secondary characters. He takes a back seat in a show that's named after him, and that's lazy writing. And then we have 2 episodes where Mandalorian shows up, Din Djarin, and he takes over in a show that has what, 7, 8 episodes total. A fourth of it is given to a completely different character. And objectively, that isn't right, because if we're naming a show after a particular character, we should be following that character. We should be following their journey. We should be like, this is like, for example, if we had a Superman movie, and instead of Superman being the central character, we followed Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen's a fun character, but he's not why we bought the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Chandler Bing said it best. I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but you know, people go to a concert to see the band that's playing. They want to see the headliner. They don't want to see the comedian who opens the show.
Yeah. All right. Let's move down. We're at 41 minutes. So, here's a good one. This is from Jesus Coit Munoz. Munoz. The Jedi's teaching on attachment is wrong. Fear of loss is the real danger.
Huh. That sounds like a whole lot of stuff that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Jessica, what's your take on that?
I disagree. I think that the fear of like your master being ashamed of you is probably more dangerous than anything. I think, it's kind of like kids with their parents. That's how they learn, they don't want to disappoint their parents, so they do better. But if you have a parent that's like constantly like, you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't do that and you should do this and you should do that, when you kind of have a different view of the world, I think you're probably less likely to have confidence in yourself. And so I think that's kind of what Padawans face, with their masters. I think that I feel like Obi-Wan was like really hard on Anakin, and that was, to me, watching the prequels, that was what really sent him down that path, is like, well, I'll never be good enough. Rather than, I know it kind of insinuates like that he specifically was afraid of losing everyone that he loved, but I don't know that that's like the same across all.
Well,
like rereading this isn't that, the fear of loss, isn't that why they have the teaching on attachments, about not having attachments, so you don't have that fear of loss,
right?
Well, the problem that you run into, and we see this in the prequels with Anakin specifically, is Anakin takes the rule about not having attachments and he finds a loophole for it. Like when he's having that conversation with Padme on Naboo during Attack of the Clones, he says, we're not supposed to have attachments, but that doesn't mean we're not permitted to love. I've got my friends and I love them. Or, he justifies a logic to a loophole. And the problem with that is, and I think this ties back into something that we've talked about in the past, is the Jedi get incredibly dogmatic about the rules and their policies and how they operate. The problem with that dogma is that, from any religious perspective, is that when that becomes, when the orthopraxy becomes the religion, they've lost sight of what their true purpose is meant to be. Like their purpose as Jedi are to be guardians and protectors and peacekeepers. They were so focused on keeping to their steeped traditions, so focused on keeping to their policies and their practices, they stopped doing that. Like, I saw this video, and I don't know how accurate it is because I know that a lot of it's pulled from Legends, but it deals with Brian's most hated set piece of the Legends lore, which is the Yuzhan Vong, and that the whole this video said that Palpatine was not creating the Death Star to fight the rebellion. He was creating it because he had a vision of the Yuzhan Vong, and he was creating a galactic empire so that he had the War Machine capable of repelling this extragalactic armada that was going to be invading. And without it, without either of the Death Stars, in Legends, obviously not in canon, the Yuzhan Vong came through and wiped the floor. I mean, one of the first planets they hit is Coruscant, and they decimate trillions of lives just through warfare. And because they used ships that were built out of planets organically, and what were the Death Star's purpose? Destroying planets. So on that end, I do think that this fear of loss is a real danger, because we see that applied. We see that experience with Kenobi during the Clone Wars. He's afraid of losing Anakin to the dark side. We see that he is afraid of losing Satine Kryze to what's happening on Mandalore. Like, if he could have, he would have run away with her. But we see it most, especially with Quinlan Vos. Quinlan Vos suffers from that fear of loss because of his own experiences during the Clone Wars. If you go back through and read the books, and you read Dark Disciple, and you read through the Clone Wars graphic novels put out by Dark Horse, everything that focuses on him, you see that happening, and it is just brutal for him. So I think the fact that the Jedi were more steeped in their orthopraxy than they were in what their actual purpose was their downfall. And I think that Jesus makes a very valid point there.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do a couple more before, and then because I want to get some of your guys' hot takes that you might have. I like this one. Crosshairs. This is from Heather Connick. Crosshair has the best psychological arc in all of Star Wars. And I don't know if I'd say best, but it is a good arc. Like, seeing him from the beginning of Bad Batch, the first season of Bad Batch, to where he ends up at the end of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just he ended up being one of my favorite characters in that series.
Yeah,
definitely.
I would say yeah. I would agree with that.
Do you see anything in there? What about you, Jessica? Do you see anything in there that's an interesting that you like with the different takes?
If Anakin had been allowed to visit his mother, none of the problems would have happened.
From Nick Phillips.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to say the name.
Okay.
I don't know about that. I mean, he was being manipulated pretty hard by Palpatine.
That's true.
And most of his issues didn't come from what happened with his mom. I mean, that was one stimulus in a plethora of stimuli.
Different, yeah.
I think
if anything, it might have sped it up.
Yeah.
Like,
but I mean, the real issue was his obsession with Padme.
Yeah. Okay, Garrett. What? Tell us one of your hot takes.
One of my hot takes. The only thing that comes to mind is, like, when I was a kid, I thought that it looked really, really cool. But when you think about it in terms of actual physics, starfighting doesn't make a lick of sense.
Yeah.
Like the way that the armadas fight, it does not make any sense whatsoever, because space is 4-dimensional, and like you've got these two armadas. It looks great on screen where you've got these two armadas just going head to head, but nobody actually would fight like that. Like,
You know what's interesting?
You would have, I mean, you could have ships being pointed in one direction, ships being pointed a different direction, and that's how the fighting would commence.
You know who, and it's been a while since I've seen this, so I might be misremembering it, but when they did the kind of remake of Battlestar Galactica, I think that had some of the best space battle scenes in that I've ever seen, as far as looking like what it might actually look like the fact that when you see the fighters in space, you don't hear, when it shows the outside, you don't hear sound, you don't hear the sound of the explosions, and
Firefly did something similar where anytime they did a shot in space, it was just dead silence. Even when the engines are warming up, you only hear it from inside the ship, not outside the ship.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. What about you, Jessica? Do you have any hot takes? Or
I do, only because I've recently been watching season 1, which is the only season so far of the Ahsoka series.
Okay.
And I had a thought when she's on the bridge with Anakin. I had this thought of like, is she a stronger Jedi than Anakin was? I mean, I know he was like the original chosen one, but I mean, the way that she sees through him, and when she's looking at him as he's like walking away, like when it did the flashback to the Clone Wars, I was just, that was a really good scene to me. It really made me ponder about like, well, I guess how they mirror each other a little bit.
Kind of. Well, I mean, she didn't fall. She had just as many opportunities and just many things that could have happened that could have caused her to fall to the dark side, just like Anakin did, but she never fell.
Yeah,
that's true.
So I think in the end, physically, no. I mean,
yeah.
When you get, Anakin as Vader, he is, insanely powerful, but
yeah, when she also
I think she was much more. I think she was wiser than Anakin.
Yeah,
I think that's what it comes down to. She is much wiser than Anakin.
Sure.
Yeah, I would agree that she had more wisdom.
Yeah.
I think she had. I mean, if we look at the Jedi from a faith perspective, I think Ahsoka had more faith in the Force to get her through whatever she needed to get through. Not so much in the organized religion of the Jedi, which leaving the Order makes sense, especially after everything that happened to her during the Clone Wars. But she was able to she didn't lose her faith in the Force, if that makes sense. Whereas Anakin, he completely switched sides. Like he went from, it's like the equivalent of like being a Christian and then being like, and then jumping ship and becoming a Satanist.
Yeah.
I think ironically, her leaving the Order ended up making her even a stronger Jedi. Like when she finally does kind of, in Rebels, when she kind of finally does come around and, understand that, hey, she kind of is still a Jedi, even though she left the Order, she's still doing the things that the Jedi do or supposed to do.
Yeah.
It made her an even stronger Jedi.
I agree.
In the end.
Yeah. I just love that storyline.
Yeah, that was.
It was a good one.
Yeah. All right. This has been exciting and fun, but we're coming up to an hour. So, Jessica, thank you for coming on. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I love learning from you guys.
Yeah, we are here to be your Jedi Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
not Brian. He's Sith through and through.
Well,
I
I
know.
mean,
I was looking forward to meeting him. Maybe next time, I'll catch
yeah,
one
yeah,
when
definitely,
Brian's on for sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
So is there a way people can get a hold of you if they want to, or on
Me?
Facebook? Or yeah.
Yeah. Um, my Facebook is just my name, Jessica Scroggins, Scroggins. And then that's really the only platform I get on a whole lot.
All
So
right.
join lots of pages. So maybe I'll see some of you on there.
Yeah, definitely. Garrett, why don't you tell them where they can find Brian at as we close up?
Yeah. So you guys can connect with Brian Karasik. He'll be hopefully be joining us next week as we're moving our recording time to be a little bit more consistent for him. But you can connect with him on Facebook through the Sith Library and Archives, where he helps cultivate posts about the dark side and the Sith and dark side lore. He posts as Darth Carosis. You can find him on Instagram at Carosis. And then he also is part of another group called the Galactic Empire. I cannot for the life of me remember what ship he's supposed to be on, but he plays a character called Lieutenant Merryweather, where they talk about policies of the Empire and imperial history and all sorts of stuff like that. As for me, you guys can connect with me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing. I do have a Facebook presence. Just search for GKJ Publishing. You'll find me. But I post about my books. I have a fantasy series called The Archives of a St. Rand. There's 5 books in the series currently. Working on book 6. In fact, I'm 50% of the way through the second or third round of edits on that book. And then I have a short story compilation called Midnight Playground. I also have a show on YouTube called The Right Way. Just search for GKJ Publishing on YouTube and you'll find me. And then, of course, I co-host another show on Feast of Fandoms called Snackame, where we eat snacks and talk anime.
Awesome. All right. As for us right here at War of the Stars, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so a few ways. First of all, through email. You can email us at warofthestars1@gmail.com. That is all lowercase, by the way. All other social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube is at War of the Stars 77. Check us out. We have some fun stuff there. Also on, if you want to support the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/War of the Stars. That's ko-fi.com/War of the Stars. Or go to warofthestars77.printify.me, where you can get some cool merchandise, as you see right here. We have stickers, hats, t-shirts, and mugs. So show your love for the show by getting some cool merch there. We are, of course, as Garrett also mentioned, a proud member of the Feast of Fandoms family. Check out all the shows on Feast of Fandoms. Everything from Star Wars to Star Trek to Marvel. It is all there. We are also a part of the Red 5 Network. Go to Red 5. You'll hear at the beginning of the show. I can never remember what the actual address is for Red 5 Network, but that's our home on for our audio version of the show. So and next week we are talking Mara Jade, one of the most popular. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that will do it for this week. Join us next week as we talk more Jade. And as always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next week, may the Force be with you.